Hello everyone, it's Tash Corbin here, and it's been a little while since we've done an emergency broadcast, but I was having a fabulous conversation with Debbie Sasson, who's joining me today, and I thought we need to record this and share this out there with the Lady Posse and any women in business who are experiencing this phenomenon. And what we're going to be talking about today is the financial roller coaster of online business and how to get off. So welcome, Debbie.
Hi, Tash. Thanks so much for having me here.
Now, Debbie, you are an amazing lady who looks at all things finance. Do you want to tell everyone a little bit about your business before we get started?
Yeah, I work with women, both online and the offline world, women who want to make more money, invest more money, and build a solid and sustainable financial future. A lot of women that I want to work with want to give back. They want to build, make a difference in people's lives, go beyond themselves, and share their finances with others who are less fortunate.
Awesome. And you are the face behind Smart Women Build Wealth, which is one of my favorite money programs. And so what we were talking about was this whole concept of the financial and emotional roller coaster of being in business. And I've got a little diagram that I'd love to share with everyone. But do you want to just quickly start us off by talking about what you see as the financial roller coaster of online business?
Well, in online business, I think more so than, well, certainly if people have a salaried position and the money is coming in on a regular monthly basis, and it makes it easier to plan. In the online world, a lot of times we're in sort of a feast and famine mode, right? You can launch a new product, a new service, and all of a sudden there's this huge influx of money. And sometimes that can be going to pay for past expenses, the Facebook ads that we took on, the website designer, the email programs that we have, all sorts of past expenses. And we spend a lot of time scrambling and getting on this emotional, tense cycle. And am I going to make enough money? And how am I going to pay for it? And is it going to work? And then there's all this. We just put so much of our life into our work because we feel so strongly about it. We go on these sort of highs and lows, and the money sort of comes in the same way. There's a huge influx, and then it's like crickets for a while. There's nothing, and then we have to scramble again to launch the next thing, bring in some more money, and then figure out how we're going to plug up the holes with the money that we bring in until the next launch. And we spend a lot of time fighting fires rather than building a sustainable plan on how we're going to take the money that we bring in and pay for expenses, but also build a better life for ourselves going forward so we can grow our wealth and build something sustainable.
Yeah, I love it. And so this was the kind of diagram that I was drawing and wanted to share with everyone. And the purple line is our marketing strategy. So we sometimes we also have this same kind of roller coaster with our activities. So we get all excited about something and we're building up and building up and building up. But then there's no financial reward when we kind of hit our peak. And so we kind of get disheartened and we start to slow down and think, no, it's not working. But the financial reward comes a little later. And so then all of a sudden something starts to work and then we think, we're going to have to let's do it. But by the time we kind of get our mojo back, this finance income side is on a bit of a downturn because we've had this really quiet patch in our business. So there's this kind of roller coaster. And then what we were talking about is then when you're in launch mode for something, or, when you're also then thinking about, well, how does this go from an emotional perspective? It was I'm just going to go crazy with the golf on this one. But then the emotional roller coaster is like off the charts kind of stuff, because in that initial quiet period, you're really your emotions are really high because you're really motivated. But if you don't get that instant result, then you crash through the floor with the emotional stuff. And it's just this crazy roller coaster. So the emotional side of it and the mindset side of it is particularly impacted by not only our actions and what we're doing, but very much so by our results as we're working in our businesses as well. And so, 100%. Debbie, I would love to get your insights into what can people do to kind of calm down this roller coaster, or what do you see as the missing link that really helps people to set themselves up for success, and this, like, I like to think of it as like wanting to have little steps up, these incremental increases instead of this crazy roller coaster. So what do you think are some of the things that people need to look at?
I think it's very much modeled by let's say, the three different types of, the three modules of Smart Women Build Wealth. Number one, and it's really the basis, the foundation for all of our work in our money, in our business, in our life, is the mindset. We have to work on that and strengthen ourselves and have that confidence in ourselves and in our business and in our business models that we can succeed, that we're bringing our beautiful gifts to the world, and we need the time and the patience. It needs to simmer a little bit before we get that beautiful, lovely super stew that we want to eat and we want to enjoy. So that's number one, is working very much on the mindset, and it's something that we take through us, till we're 100. We can't just all of a sudden think, oh, click, I've got it, and it's done, and we can check it off of our to-do list. It's a continual process. And then, like in business, then there's the planning stage. We have to plan, figure out where we want to go and what our next steps are, what our goals are, and then we get to the implementation stage. So there's really, there's really three very defined modules in terms of working on your money that are so much mirrored by so many other things that we do in life. Getting our heads in the right space, making a plan, and then carrying it out.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. And I really loved, I just popped the three kind of main areas where I see my financial and wealth growth kind of areas have come from. And I think this is really aligned, is that like having the right mindset. So action, doing things that build your mindset. And then I love your take on behaviors and actions as well, that, it's all well and good for us to grow this mindset, but if we're not setting ourselves up with consistent habits and actions, such as reviewing our numbers and looking at our numbers, such as putting money away into investments and into, that short, medium and long-term picture financially. And then also, something that I love that you do that I don't see in a lot of other money courses is you teach this technical side of investing, of money, those understanding all the different terminology, even understanding who you go and talk to about what elements of your money. I didn't know the difference between a bookkeeper and accountant when I first started my business. And so, just even learning those sorts of things. And I love that you go even in depth into things like the stock markets and bonds and other options and like things that a lot of us don't actually really learn about ever normally. But when we're in business, there's something that I think is a beautiful opportunity that we have in business. We have this opportunity to have huge influxes of income. If you think about people who do great big launches, or, you go through a big sales process, or even if you have particular times of the year where you have this big chunk of money coming in. And if you do it like this, you kind of end up avoiding this. Instead of that big influx causing a crazy emotional roller coaster, if you're actually approaching this in these three areas and you're looking both at the short term, the medium term, and the long term with your finances, then that big influx of income doesn't necessarily have to mean a peak in your emotional state and then you're, falling off the emotional roller coaster once it's over, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes total sense. And I think that when we're learning new habits and the ways of dealing with your money, because once you get that big influx, it really does have an effect on what you think you are able to achieve. You're like, and we see this whether it's in athletes, star athletes who get these huge contracts. And most athletes are not going to be able to work as footballers or basketball players or whatever until they're 65 years old. And they have to learn or get their money managers that are going to help them put the money aside so that, these million or multi-million-dollar contracts that they have can take care of them for the long term. And in our business, it's a little bit of a smaller scale until maybe you're in the real big leagues like a Tony Robbins or something. Most of us are not making, multi-millions of dollars on our next launch. But whatever we bring in, if we manage it properly, then yeah, the emotions will, I don't know if we'll ever get over those peaks because we're human after all, but we'll be able to make them just a little bit more moderate, and you'll know that, hey, some of that money is put aside, that I know that if I'm going to have a slow winter, or I want to go on holiday for a month, or I want to, deal with family members, and you know that, right? Then you know that you have something set aside that's going to carry you through, and you're going to feel a lot less stressed out. We want to reduce the financial stress so that we can build. We can take those emotions that we have and put it into expansive things rather than keeping that sort of contraction of energy.
Yeah. And I particularly see this with launching, because I do see that most people, when they have their second launch, they suffer from second launch syndrome, which is that the first launch of an online course or program, they've got a big chunk of people following them. Usually they've been in business for a couple of years. So their first launch is kind of, I call it fishing from their pond. And so their first launch can be quite successful without having to invest a lot of money in advertising, growing their reach, and those sorts of things. And so they make an assumption that their second launch is going to be the same, if not bigger, with the same activities. But unfortunately, they've already fished their existing pond. And so they go into that second launch and there's no fresh new eyes on their stuff. And the second launch is nowhere near what their expectations are. And then that creates that space of contraction. If they haven't put money aside from the first launch, if they haven't managed that income effectively, then that second launch that doesn't do so well puts them in the fear cycle and the fear spiral. Then they start making strange decisions about what they're going to be doing, and they're not thinking clearly, and they start to try and jam 6 launches into a 6-month period, and then all of a sudden none of the launches are actually doing that well. And sorry, my little alarm letting me know it's a great day to make 3K. But yeah, they go into that space of really kind of freaking out about what's going on for them, and then they don't make sound business decisions. And we know that great strategic business decisions are a lot easier when you're of sound mind, and you've got that level emotional playing field. And also, having more money available to you can actually open up new opportunities. I've recently just been invited to go and speak somewhere, and it's on stage in front of 1,000 people. Now, if I didn't have money set aside, I wouldn't have been able to say yes to that opportunity, because it's a small amount that I'm getting paid, but I need to cover my own travel expenses. And we see that happen quite a lot in business, that, if you don't have the ads budget to get in front of the right amount of people, then you can't ever get that kind of exponential growth that you're looking for.
That's great. That's fascinating. And I think it really paralleled by the way we take care of our finances. Again, when we can be managing the day-to-day of our life, but if we want to be able to get out of that cycle of always working paycheck to paycheck, or launch to launch, or whatever it is, then we have to be doing something, putting money aside and working to build, whether it's with our investments, with our knowledge, with our practices. But we have to always have one eye on the present and one eye looking to the future, so that we know that there's something beyond. And and I hear from what you're telling me in terms of business, it very much parallels what we see with money and with finances. I don't want to get too geeky at the moment, but we many of us have heard this term about compound interest being the 8th wonder of the world, right? That you put money away in investments, you earn a little bit of interest, and then you're going to earn interest on your interest and interest on your interest, and so on and so forth. And in the beginning, it looks like nothing, and you almost think why bother? I'm going to earn another couple of bucks a year. It's not going to really ever do anything for me. But if you stay the course, you stay in the process, then that the line is horizontal. It's a little bit creeping up over time. But at some point, there's that inflection, and the curve just goes up. And that's what I'm hearing from you in terms of business, that if you have the capacity and the wherewithal to stay in your business and ride out those sort of slow months or slow, a couple of years, then you're going to get past that inflection point, and it will go up. You're going to get there. You have to have the confidence. Again, we're going to go back to the mindset. You have to, feel that confidence that you're doing the right thing, and you're going to stay on course, and always, one eye on today and one eye on the future.
Yeah, I love that. And so, look, it sounds to me, Debbie, like this kind of the take home of this this emergency broadcast is there's kind of two things here. Number one is the mindset really sets you up for success, and the strategy actually is much more effective when you've got the mindset stuff sorted, so that there's like this sort of key thing of looking at your money mindset. Yes, but I mean, you've got to have the strategy that goes with it to then be doing something with that money as it comes in. And then the second one, I think, is like that awareness and being, I think for me, this has been a big lesson as well, is like having that willingness to even look at my numbers in that sort of analytical space, and looking at my past numbers, my what's going on right now, and my future projections, and for me, I'm being a lot more realistic about where my income is going to go to as I move up in the next level. I've always thought my 100K launch is just around the corner. And as you've seen, we had dramas with Facebook ads, with the Facebook algorithm getting all mixed up in August and September. So no launches were doing particularly well unless you had a good $20,000 to $30,000 Facebook ads budget, and I didn't have that budget at that point in time, so that launch wasn't as great as I thought. Then this recent launch, I had a sudden death in the family. I had to go off to a funeral, 2.5 weeks out of my business, so didn't do any of my launch activities, and the launch has been about a third of what I was expecting. And yet, by consistently just knowing my minimum numbers and putting away just a little bit here and there, I'm still tracking at least for some kind of financial future growth, and some, I feel like there's some feeling of getting ahead. And so that for me, I think, is like the other one, is that unless you're looking at your numbers and making those decisions about doing something for your future self, you'll constantly feel like you're coming back to zero. And that's, I think, where this roller coaster goes crazy, is if you constantly feel like you're coming back to zero, then you could have, I say this to some people when they come to me with the business strategy. And I say, how much money did you pay yourself in the last 6 months from all this stuff that you've done? And it's close to nothing. And I say, you could have gone and flipped burgers at McDonald's for 3 hours a day and then spent the rest of the time at the beach, and you would be in the same position financially. And yes, we can talk about, but I'm getting to that tipping point, or yes, my business is going to be growing, and I'm setting myself up and I'm growing my reach and all those sorts of things. But the time to make profit in your business is now, and the time to start looking after your financial future is now as well, because the sooner you get started, the more you can really capitalize on some of the benefits of putting money away and investments and some of those other bigger, longer term things as well.
I love that. And I would just add that when you're looking at your numbers, which is something that a lot of entrepreneurs fear doing. Yeah. And either it's going to reflect badly on them. Oh, look, I spent all this money and I didn't make anything. Or like you said, I may as well just go flip burgers at McDonald's. But when you're looking at your numbers, you can make different choices. You can make different, more discerning decisions. And then also, as you move along that path of your business growth, then the whole, mindset, practical, combination, it becomes a virtuous circle, because all of a sudden you're going to see how, you have a financial cushion, and even if it's just a little bit at a time, but it's growing and growing and growing, that's going to make you feel more confident. I'm even sitting up some more straight in my chair, but it's going to give you that, hey, I'm really making it. Last year I made $1,000 in my business, whatever. This year I'm making $1,200 in my business. Next year I'm making $5,000 in my business. Whatever it is, but when you're really, connected with those numbers, you can pivot if you need to, you can shift, and you can just feel really good deep inside that you're doing something that's working, you're making a difference in people's lives, and you're taking care of yourself and your family at the same time.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And just maybe as a final point for us to have a quick conversation around, because I really do love the way that you do this in Smart Women Build Wealth. And I think that for a lot of people, they think that they're not ready yet, or they think that their business isn't ready yet, like that whole like future long-term thing. I need to be making X amount of dollars first before I start, that kind of thing. So I would love to get your opinion on, you know, how can people, if they feel like their business isn't profitable enough yet, or they're not ready yet, or, you know, this just isn't for them right now, how can people get ready for that? Like, what would be some things that they could do to make themselves feel like, oh, maybe investing is for me, or maybe I am in the space where I can start looking after my future self?
Whatever we do, I think the best way to make it consistent for the long term is to take little steps. You know, if we just, you know, and it's like the same diet mentality. Oh, I'm going to go on a liquid diet for 3 days. I'll lose 10 pounds. Everything will be hunky dory, and then I'm going to be skinny for life. But real life doesn't work like that. But if we make small changes, you know, you take the few cookies that you eat after dinner and you replace that with a piece of fruit, right? If you take some money in from your launch, or anytime you have a coaching session with the client and you bring in a couple $100 or whatever it is, you put a little bits of money aside, and you know that this is my stash. This is how I'm taking care of myself and protecting myself for the future, even if it sits in a shoebox for the next year. Right? You know, put it in a shoebox and say, this is my money for Smart Women Build Wealth next year, right? Whatever it is. This is my retirement account, but you can like shake your little piggy bank, and you feel that you're taking care of yourself. You know, if we take small, consistent steps, that's how we build ourselves. The foundations are stronger. They're much more stable. And that's what enables us to build our skyscrapers taller, because we have solid foundations.
And actually, for everyone watching along, I need to actually come clean about this, because Debbie has probably shared her put your $1 a day away thing as a tip. I don't know how many hundreds of times. I don't know how many times I saw it. And I was always in this mentality of, I'll just do it when I can put away $500 a week. Like, I just was like, I'll just wait till I can put a bigger, because it's not going to do anything. It's not going to count. It's not going to work. And actually it was through Smart Women Build Wealth, and towards the end of Smart Women Build Wealth last round, that I opened up my Acorns account, which is, for those in Australia, it's like a little micro investing. I've got a referral code and we get $2.50 each if you want to use my code. But, you know, I started that Acorns account, and I started with $7 a week, and it was just $7. And what it does is it rounds up your little amounts that you spend to the nearest dollar as well. And then it never stopped. Like, it never got derailed. And so what it did was it built the mindset. And so even though that little $7 for those first, I think it was about 6 weeks, it amounted to like maybe $100 after 6 weeks with my little extras that I was popping in there. But that $100, even though before I started, I was like, I'm going to have $100 in 6 weeks. Woody, woody, woo. But looking at that $100, what it did was it actually showed me that I could get away with putting that money aside, and it wouldn't impact on my lifestyle. And so then I doubled it to $14 a week, and then I doubled it to $28 a week, and now it's $56 a week that's going into investments. And I'm almost at $1,000. I thought I'd show you. I'm up to $995 in my little investments account, and that's been like maybe 4 or 5 months now, but it's never stopped. I've never cancelled it. I've never missed it. Like, it just is something, and it's building this muscle. And that's why I think, you know, when I come back to this image, and like you said, it's this virtuous cycle. So I decided to shift my mindset and just say, I'm just going to put this little bit away. It doesn't count. I'm not going to notice it. It's not going to make any difference, but I'm just going to try it out. And then I took the action, and then that built my mindset. And then I raised it because I changed a different action, and now I'm like double, like questioning spending a little more. And if I make a decision not to buy something, I put that money straight into my Acorns account, or I'll put it into a savings account. And so then now that I've got this more money set aside, I can learn a little bit more about other investment instruments that are available to me and take some new action. And so I just see like all three of these things really just build on each other as they go. And so, you know, if you are sitting there listening and you think, well, all I could do is $5 a week, or all I could do is $10 a week, just start with that. You're better off doing that than nothing. And even if all it means is that in 2 years' time, you have $1,000 sitting in some random account somewhere, that is better than the current situation that you're in, and you will not have noticed that little bit of amount of money going out. So just like it's like proving to yourself that you can do something. And if you're anything like me, I have set up $100 a week going out of my account probably 10 times, and by the third week I've had to cancel it because I haven't been able to maintain it, and it's been too big of a jump to get started with. And you know, some people can jump straight into it, but that mindset of all or nothing, I think, is one of the things that really held me back from doing this earlier. And I really wish I had been able to overcome it earlier, but you know, everyone with their own journey. This is mine. And so, you know, I agree with you wholeheartedly. Just that little something, and maybe like just do a little something for your mindset and a little something from an action perspective, and they will grow each other. And that's a really beautiful place to get started. And Debbie, if people want to join Smart Women Build Wealth now, I know it's starting really soon. I'm really excited to jump in and do another round with you. And I've got a bigger goal for me this time, but again, baby steps into that bigger goal. So how can they find out a bit more about the Smart Women Build Wealth program?
They can go ahead and look on my site, which is debbiesasson.thinkific.com/courses/wealth.
Beautiful. And I'll pop the link to that into the description of this video as well, so people can follow that link and find out more about Smart Women Build Wealth. And I would also recommend, whilst you're there, check out some of Debbie's other courses. And also, Debbie, you've got some amazing free resources that you share on your website as well. So I'll pop a few links over on the description of this video so people can check it out. If you feel like it's time for you to be a smart woman and start building wealth now, come and join us in this next round of Smart Women Build Wealth. And if you feel like, no, I'm not quite ready yet, I need to do some things to get ready for the next round, then make sure that you go and check out those freebies and check out more of Debbie's work, because she really does help you. She's so generous with her freebies. She does great Facebook Lives on her Facebook page, the blog posts. So do make sure that Debbie Sasson is one of the peeps that you follow to set yourself up with that financial freedom, and that, you know, that feeling of everything is taken care of, and you know, you might still be working towards those goals, but it's not from this. It's a more of a gentle rise, and that feeling of waking up in the morning knowing everything's sorted. I think, you know, you can't put a price tag on that. Like, it is so it's such a different way of being in the world, and for a lot of us, we've not experienced that before. So, you know, it's a beautiful thing.
Okay, great. Wonderful.
Thank you so much, Debbie. And I got to say, Debbie, please keep doing what you're doing, because I love it so much. Thank you so much for joining me for this emergency broadcast. I'm glad that we could do another one together, because I do think that, you know, this conversation, we have such amazing conversations, you and I do think that they all should probably be broadcast at some point or another. And so being able to record this for everyone has been really awesome. Thank you so much, Debbie.
Thank you, Tash. Thanks so much.
No worries. Bye. Goodbye, everyone. We'll see you soon.